The shipyard floated above a quiet planet, deep in the outer rim of the galaxy. It was huge like a city in space, covered with glowing lights, tall cranes, and massive ship parts that moved like clockwork. Thousands of workers, machines, and engineers moved through the platforms every hour. This place belonged to the Zirathi, a highly advanced alien species known for building some of the most powerful starships in the galaxy. Their ships were not just tools, they were art, science, and power combined. In one of the upper control rooms, an alien woman named Lyra stood alone, looking down at the construction zone. She had light blue skin that shimmered softly under the ceiling lights. Her eyes glowed with a quiet fire, and her long fingers tapped quickly on the glass screen in front of her. She wore a dark engineer's suit with golden lines, marking her as a senior shipbuilder. Lyra wasn't just good at her job. She was the best. But lately, something felt missing. She had built ships for war, for trade, for science. But every ship was the same: perfect, cold, exact. Her people designed with logic, never emotion. With data, never instinct. Lyra had always followed the rules. Until now, a message blinked on her screen. Human engineer, assigned to Joint Project Delta X9. Arrival in 20 minutes. Lyra narrowed her eyes. A human? Here? It was rare. The Zirathi didn't often invite other species to their yards. But this Project Delta X9 was special. It aimed to combine ideas from different worlds. The Council wanted speed and innovation. And for some reason, they chose to add a human to the team. Lyra didn't like surprises. But ... She was curious. Exactly 20 minutes later, the shuttle docked. Lyra walked down the metal hallway toward the welcome platform. Her steps were sharp and quiet. She kept her arms behind her back, her face calm. The doors opened. A man stepped out. Wore a simple black flight jacket, gray cargo pants, and boots covered in dust. His black hair was short, and his eyes looked around the station with a mix of wonder and focus. He smiled when he saw her. "You must be Lyra," he said. "I'm Kai. Thanks for not ejecting my ship on site." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "You are early," Kai shrugged. "Better than being late." Lyra nodded slowly. "Follow me. We start work immediately." She didn't talk much as she led him through the station. They passed long halls filled with ship parts, cores, engines, wings, even weapons still under testing. Robotic arms moved like dancers, welding and placing with perfect timing. Kai looked impressed. "You build with incredible precision," he said. Lyra replied, "That is the only way to build correctly." Kai didn't argue, but he smiled again. They entered a quiet lab at the far end of the station. A small prototype fighter ship rested on a raised platform. It was sleek, sharp, and unfinished. "This is Delta X9, Lyra said. "We are to design its flight control system together. Your methods will be recorded." Kai walked around the ship, studying the curves, the layout, the tech. He stopped at the core. "Mind if I take a look inside?" he asked. Lyra nodded. He opened a panel and reached in. Without looking at the calculations, he turned a dial and adjusted a connector. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. "You did not run simulations." "I don't need to," Kai said. "It's a feeling. The resistance was off. Trust me." Lyra stared at him. "Feeling? What kind of method was that?" After Kai left for the day, Lyra stayed behind. She kept thinking about that adjustment. It didn't make sense. So she checked the data, and to her shock, the system's response was better than before. Faster, smoother, more stable. How? She opened the panel and copied his change into her backup model. She ran the test. Same result. Her eyes narrowed. It wasn't possible. Her people would never allow something like this, changing a system based on instinct. But it worked. She leaned back in her chair, her eyes staring at the blinking results. For the first time in a long time, she felt something strange. Curiosity. The next morning, Lyra was already awake before the station lights brightened. Her mind had been racing all night. She kept replaying the moment when Kai touched the ship core and changed the settings, without running a single calculation. No numbers, no test models. Just feeling. It was wrong. But it worked, and that disturbed her more than it should have. In the engineering bay, Kai arrived right on time, coffee in hand, and humming a tune no one recognized. His relaxed nature didn't match the silence and precision of the Zirathi. "Shipyard. Morning, Lyra," he said casually. "Ready to confuse your entire species again?" Lyra folded her arms. "I reviewed your adjustment. The system output increased by 6.7%. No logic explains that." Kai took a sip. "Maybe logic isn't everything." Lyra's expression didn't change. "Then what is?" He smiled. "Instinct, experience, gut feeling." She blinked. "Gut feeling?" Kai chuckled. "Yeah, you build by rules. I build by rhythm." They worked together that day, side by side. Lyra handled the energy balancing, adjusting power flow with strict math and flawless alignment. Kai, meanwhile, sketched control layouts with a pen and paper, scribbled ideas on his sleeve, and tested. By simply touching things. When a panel gave off too much vibration, he didn't measure it. He just rewired the cable into a gentler curve. When the ship's engine felt too heavy on startup, he changed the sequence by ear. Lyra couldn't understand it, but she watched and listened. At lunch, Lyra sat alone in the observation lounge. Outside the glass, the stars shimmered against the black. Kai walked in, sat beside her, and placed a strange, soft, round object on the table. "What is that?" she asked. "Bread," he said, tearing it in half. "From Earth. You should try it. I do not eat unknown substances. You fly starships, Lyra. This is safer than hyperspace." She hesitated, then took a bite. It was warm, soft, oddly comforting. She looked at him. "This is simple, but good." Kai smiled. "That's how humans are." Back in the lab, they worked in silence again, until Lyra finally asked, "Why do you build without rules?" Kai paused. "We have rules," he said. "We just don't always follow them. Sometimes the best path is the one no one's walked. Yet, that is dangerous." "Yeah," he nodded. "But that's also where discovery lives." Lyra stared at him. Not just the words, but how he said them. Like he meant every word without needing proof. And for the first time, she wondered, could a human way of building be better? That night, after Kai left, Lyra accessed a restricted file. It was a personal prototype design, a ship she had been working on secretly for years. It was perfect on paper, but it had never flown right. She opened the core controls. Pause. Then slowly changed one connection. By feel. Just like Kai had done. The next simulation ran. The ship responded better. Not by much, but enough. She stared at the screen. No logic. No math. Just instinct. And it worked. She leaned back, hands on her lap, heart beating faster than usual. Something had changed inside her. She didn't just want to understand Kai's methods now. She wanted to understand him. The days passed, but something inside Lyra had shifted. She still walked with the same straight back, still gave perfect instructions, still corrected her team with calm, precise words. But at night, when the shipyard grew quiet and the stars outside blinked in silence, she opened the hidden project file, the one no one knew about. And each night, she changed one small thing. Without calculation. One wire placement, one control setting, one curve in the pilot's seat. Each change was not based on logic, It was based on what felt right. In the main lab. Kai noticed the shift 2. Lyra didn't interrupt his process anymore. She watched. She even asked questions. Why do you round the console edge? Why place the switch at that angle? Why shorten that circuit? Kai smiled. Because that's where the hand lands when the pilot's scared. Lyra paused. You design. For fear? I design for humans, he said. Fear comes with the package. One evening, Lyra waited in the hangar before Kai arrived. She stood in front of a small fighter model, her own design, never flown. When Kai entered, she didn't greet him the usual way. Instead, she said, Would you like to fly it? He blinked. You're serious? She nodded. It is not finished, but I want to see. If your methods truly make it alive. Kai grinned. You trust me? Lyra didn't answer, but she opened the cockpit door. They flew together. The prototype launched like a whisper, cutting through the stars without a sound. Kai guided it through smooth turns, power dives, and sharp climbs. The ship responded faster than anything he'd flown before. Lyra watched the readings, but also watched his face. He didn't look at the controls. He felt them. He smiled when the ship curved, laughed when it climbed faster than expected. And at one point, he closed his eyes for 5 seconds while flying through a tight tunnel of debris. Lyra almost panicked, but they made it through perfectly. She exhaled slowly. Kai looked over. You okay? She stared forward and said softly, No. I understand. You don't fly the ship. You become part of it. Back on the station, Lyra returned to her quarters. She sat in silence, then opened a new design file. She labeled it Emotion-Based Integration, Human Variant. She didn't know what this was turning into, but it was more than curiosity now. It was connection. Asterisk. The next day, an internal message flashed across the screens. Zerathi High Command will observe Project Delta X9 progress tomorrow. Prepare final test. Lyra stared at the message. If they saw what she had changed, what Kai had inspired, they might shut everything down. But still, she didn't stop. She looked over at Kai. And for the first time, she asked him, not for data, not for math, but for instinct. How do we make this ship feel alive? Kai grinned. We don't build it to fly. We build it to listen. That night, Lyra made her boldest choice yet. She removed the backup failsafes. She changed the power core's harmonics based on pilot heart rate mapping, a human idea. She rewired the communication system to respond to voice tone, not just commands. No simulations. No safety nets. Just instinct. And one quiet word under her breath. Let's see what it means to feel. Asterisk. The Delta X9 sat quietly in the center of the hangar, its smooth silver hull glowing under soft blue lights. From a distance, it looked like every other advanced fighter. But inside, it was something different now. Lyra stood before it alone. She had changed everything. Not with permission, not with data, but with feel. Her fingers brushed the edge of the hull. It felt warm, almost alive. She didn't know if it would work. But deep inside the ship's new core, human-modified voice system waited silently. It wasn't programmed to follow commands. It was programmed to listen. Kai entered the hangar a few minutes later, surprised to find the bay already open. Lyra turned to him, calm and quiet. It's ready. You ran simulations? He asked. No. His eyebrows rose. You sure it's safe? No, she said again. Then, after a pause, but I'm sure it's right. Kai grinned. Now you sound like me. They climbed into the cockpit together. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship's lights flickered, and a soft hum filled the air. Lyra whispered, Delta X9, begin warm-up. The ship responded not with a beep, but with a whispered voice. Pilot confirmed. Heart rate stable. Connection recognized. Kai sat back. Did your ship just talk? Lyra nodded. It knows us now. They took off. The flight was smooth. Too smooth, no shaking. No delay. No corrections, It moved with them, not behind them. They wove through training fields, low orbit spins, and power dives. Lyra wasn't checking numbers anymore. She was listening. And her ship, was speaking back, responding to the way her breath changed, the pressure in her grip, the rise and fall of Kai's voice. Suddenly, the main console flickered. A warning light appeared. Command vessel inbound. Zirethi High Council has arrived. Lyra froze. They will scan the ship, she said. They will know what we did. Kai leaned back. And let's show them what it can really do. As the High Council ship approached, its sleek hull casting a long shadow across the hangar, Lyra and Kai guided the Delta X-9 back into dock. Officials stepped out tall, expressionless, wearing dark robes with gold trim. One of them, Elder Viorin, stepped forward. You flew without clearance, he said. Yes. Lyra replied. You modified core systems with unauthorized foreign methods. Yes, you risked a prototype built over 8 years. She nodded, and made it better. The Council demanded a systems report. Lyra handed over the data cube without hesitation. While they scanned it, the ship remained still, quiet. Watching Kai whispered to her, they'll either shut it down or ask you to build 10 more. Lyra said nothing. Inside her, something whispered too, not fear, but freedom. Minutes passed. Finally, Elder Viorin looked up. This ship should not be possible, and yet it is. He turned to Lyra. You broke protocol. I followed potential. She answered. The council members glanced at one another. Then Viorin spoke again. This technology may be dangerous, but it is also the future. He pointed toward Kai. The human will remain. You will both continue development under observation. Lyra's chest rose slightly. She didn't smile, but her eyes burned brighter. She turned to Kai. The ship isn't finished. He nodded. Neither are we. That night, alone in the hangar, Lyra stood before the ship once more. She whispered one word to the core. Thank you. And for a moment, just before the lights dimmed, the ship whispered back. Always. The Delta X-9 no longer felt like a machine. To most of the shipyard workers, it was still just a prototype, a sleek vessel built with mixed design principles. But to Lyra, it had become something far more personal. It wasn't just wires and circuits. It was a bridge between logic and emotion, between alien and human. Between her and Kai. Since the Council's order, Lyra and Kai were given a private hangar to continue their work. Armed guards now stood at the doors. High Command watchers reviewed every report. But inside the lab, it was quiet, peaceful. A place where two minds worked in sync. Lyra watched as Kai adjusted the response delay in the pilot feedback loop. He didn't use tools, just his fingers, listening, feeling. How do you know what to change? She asked. Kai looked at her and smiled. Same way you knew to trust me. Lyra thought about that. She had trusted him with the one thing that mattered most, her creation. Now, she wanted to understand more than just his way of building. She wanted to understand him. Later that evening, Lyra found herself alone in the observation dome, watching the stars drift by. She didn't hear Kai come in, but she spoke anyway. My people say emotions are distractions, but I feel something new when I'm near the ship. Near you. Kai sat beside her, quiet for a moment. Humans are full of distractions, he said softly, but sometimes the heart finds clarity where logic doesn't. Lyra looked at him, not with confusion this time, with something close to understanding. The next day, the Delta X-9 was scheduled for its first true combat simulation. Not just maneuvers. Live fire testing. The Council wanted to see if emotion-driven controls could still function under pressure. Kai suited up first. "Are you ready?" he asked. Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "Let's trust the ship." As they launched, everything around them vanished in a blur of light and space. Missile drones locked on to their signal. Turrets activated. Debris fields shifted. The simulation was brutal by design, but the ship didn't panic. Because the pilots didn't. Every twist, every dodge, every burn through plasma clouds felt like breathing. The Delta X-9 responded to fear, to focus, to heartbeats, and tiny shifts in voice tone. When Lyra gasped at a sudden turn, the ship adjusted speed automatically. When Kai tensed, the shielding thickened. They weren't flying a fighter anymore. They were flying with it. By the time the simulation ended, observers were silent. The results weren't just good. They were unbelievable. No pilot had ever scored that high in a first run. Not even elite Zerethi warriors. Later, inside the cockpit, as systems powered down, Lyra didn't move. Her fingers traced the console softly, as if touching skin. Kai turned to her. "What are you thinking?" She whispered, "This ship is more than metal. It listens, feels." He nodded. "Like you." She looked at him closer than before. "I never thought emotion could make a design stronger. And I never thought logic could lead to something this beautiful," Kai replied. For the first time, she reached out, not to touch a circuit or a screen, but his hand. It was warm. Solid. No data needed. Only feeling. And for Lyra, that was enough. The official tests were over. The Council was pleased. The data was perfect. And yet, Lyra wasn't satisfied. The Delta X-9 had survived combat drills, passed simulations, and outperformed expectations, but always under controlled conditions, inside approved boundaries, beneath watchful eyes. What they built together wasn't just meant to survive rules. It was meant to break them. That night, Lyra stood beside the fighter again, her hand resting on its hull. She stared into its curved glass canopy like it might answer her thoughts. Kai entered quietly, holding a datapad. "They want us to start building 5 more copies." Lyra didn't reply. After a pause, she said, "What if this isn't its limit?" Kai tilted his head. "You want to go further." "I want to take it beyond the line," she said, "where no eyes are watching, where we test what can't be measured." "Unauthorized flight," Kai said softly. "That could cost us both." "Everything." Lyra looked at him, calm, determined. "Then let it." At 3:17 station time, the hangar's emergency bay lights flickered on. The doors opened just enough to allow a single launch. No alarms. No alerts. Just a whisper of engines and the smooth glide of the Delta X-9 vanishing into the dark. The ship accelerated through the upper atmosphere, past planetary orbit, and into deep space. No beacon. No tracking. Inside, Kai adjusted the shield resonance, while Lyra activated a hyperspace jump manually. A dangerous move even for experienced pilots. But the ship didn't resist. It moved with them, trusting, adapting, flowing. "We're off-grid," Kai said. "No signals, just us now." Lyra leaned back. "Good." They entered the uncharted zone, an unstable region filled with shifting asteroid belts, gravitational spikes, and magnetic storms. Zerethi ships were never allowed here, but the Delta X-9 wasn't a normal ship anymore. As the first wave of debris spiraled toward them, Lyra didn't speak. She only breathed, and the ship listened. Asterisk. It dodged before commands. It bent around collapsing rock formations. It skimmed through electromagnetic fields without a blink in power. Kai watched the controls. None of them touched. Lyra, are you flying it at all? No, she whispered. It's flying with me. Then, without warning, something new appeared on the radar. An ancient structure, floating and dormant, surrounded by broken hulls of old ships. This wasn't on any map, Kai said. It's responding to us. Lyra replied, It's waking up. The Delta X9's panels began to glow not from the inside, but in response to the signal outside. The ship had made contact. Not just with them. With something older, they circled slowly. No enemies. No weapons. Just a giant alien doorway. Opening. For the first time in centuries. What is this place? Kai asked. I don't know, Lyra said. But I think the ship does. As they returned from the Forbidden Zone hours later, the station lights blinked red. They were intercepted before docking. Arrest orders. The council was waiting. Lyra shut down the engines calmly. Kai looked at her. We're caught. She nodded. Let them see what we saw. Inside the council chamber, the leaders shouted, You disobeyed orders. You violated the agreement. You endangered classified technology. Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady. We did what you never dared to. She placed the data crystal on the table. Inside it, recordings of the flight, the ship's behavior, and the alien signal. The chamber went quiet. What is this? An elder asked. A door, she said, and a ship that's ready to open. The council chamber was silent. Every member stared at the hologram, flickering above the table, the alien doorway in the uncharted zone. The ship's data showed no known signal, no origin, and no threat. But what stunned them most was the Delta X9's response. The ship didn't just detect the signal. It answered it. Explain this, demanded Elder VR. Lyra stood tall beside Kai, both of them calm under the council's eyes. The ship's core connected to something. Lyra said, something old. Something we were never meant to find with ordinary logic. Another counselor leaned forward. You modified Zirathi systems with human designs. Yes, Lyra answered, because our logic builds ships. But human instinct brings them to life. The council debated behind closed doors for hours. Meanwhile, Kai and Lyra waited outside, alone. She stood at the window, watching the ship resting silently in the hangar far below. It's strange, she said softly. I built it. But now, it feels like it built me too. Kai leaned against the wall, arms crossed. That's how humans feel about the things we love. She looked at him. Love, another thing I wasn't designed to understand. He smiled. But now? She didn't smile, but her eyes warmed. Now I'm designing a new version of myself. When the council returned, they didn't look angry anymore. They looked uncertain. Elder Viaran spoke first. We have reviewed the data. This technology breaks many rules. But we can't ignore what it showed us. He turned to Lyra. You are no longer ordered to stop. You are ordered to lead. Kai raised an eyebrow. What about me? Viaran hesitated. You're staying too. Kai smirked. Didn't sound too confident. We aren't, another elder admitted. But we know now something bigger is out there. And you too built the only ship that might reach it. Weeks passed. Under Lyra's command, a new lab was constructed twice the size of the first. Not just for building ships, but for designing. The future engineers from many species arrived. Zirathi, humans, even species once skeptical of collaboration, now sent their best minds. And in the center of it all was the Delta X9, now nicknamed the Bridge. Lyra's name became known across systems, not just as a shipbuilder, but as the one who redefined what design could be. She was no longer just Zirathi. She was something more. She was the blueprint for a new way of thinking. One evening, as the Ivni Station floated above a glowing nebula. Lyra and Kai stood in the observation dome again. Stars shimmered ahead. "I sometimes wonder," Lyra said, "if the ship changed us, or we changed the ship." Kai shrugged. "Does it matter?" "No," she said softly. "Only that it was worth it." She turned to him. "I've built thousands of ships," she said. "All of them perfect, all of them cold." She reached for his hand. "This one feels alive, just like this moment." Kai gently held her fingers. "Then let's build another," he whispered. And in the hangar, the Delta X-9 glowed softly, ready for wherever they would go next. The end. Asterisk.